All right, guys, welcome to the broadcast part 22. This is where Bitcoin culture meets business and finance. We catch up on news, videos, charts, trends, and any other Bitcoin related content that stood out to us in the past 2 weeks. I don't know if that was Jackson, but
That was Brian.
oh, that was Brian. Okay.
They're
Someone's
coming.
ringing my
They're coming
door.
to his house
They're
with
coming
the
to get
direct
me.
energy
They're coming to get
weapons.
me.
Okay. Well, usually I'm doing this with Brian and Michael. Michael is stuck in the snowstorm, I think, or there is going to be a storm or something, and so we have Jackson on. So we're happy that Jackson joined us, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I've got big shoes to fill for Big Mike, as they say.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy you're here. I just edited your little card
Oh, nice.
there.
Thank you for editing my card.
Yeah, and well, let's just kick it off, guys. I think a lot of stuff happened in the past 2 weeks, and I think our first link is probably the most viral thing of this week. Probably a lot of people saw this, but let's just watch it, the 39 seconds, and then Jackson, I heard you have a spicy take on this, so let's see where you're at.
Bitcoin doesn't have a money printer. The supply is fixed, and people will go to it in times of uncertainty, kind of like they did with gold.
Sorry to say that I trust more independent central banks with a democratic mandate than private issuers of Bitcoin, which have a very useful role. But
Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. There's actually no issuer of it. So that's in the sense that central banks have independence. Bitcoin is even more independent. There's no country or company or individual who controls it in the world. And so anyway, I think it's a healthy competition because if people can decide which one they trust more, and I think it's actually the greatest accountability Bitcoin doesn't have a money print.
Greatest accountability mechanism ever to be invented.
So I love this tweet first because all caps, Coinbase CEO absolutely destroyed French central bank governor who said he doesn't trust Bitcoin. This is a must watch. So my takeaway from this is actually the opposite.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Vivek steals videos, and he did
Oh,
never ever credits, and he blocked me when I told him so. And this is actually Gareth posted this as a first. So I just wanted to share it.
Vivek, we're coming for you, man. Watch out. But first of all, my first take is like, I hate those accounts that just post all caps and just garbage accounts. So let's get that off my chest first. But then what I really wanted to talk about was, it's kind of sad actually for us because we have Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase he's at Davos, and he talks about how Bitcoin and fiat currencies are in a healthy competition. And what does the room do? They laugh at him. They all laugh at his idea that Bitcoin is competing as a form of money. And my take on this is most people are laughing at us right now, guys. Like, we are in the Bitcoin space. We use Bitcoin as a savings technology. Bram, you're building a Bitcoin business. Brian and I are building a Bitcoin business. We are the laughing stock of most people currently. Like, we're just jokes to most people. And so I kind of feel for Brian Armstrong. He's like in the arena, he's in Davos. Not that I think that Coinbase is the best business. There's things I dislike about them, of course, about all the shit coining and the meme coins, but I kind of feel for the guy because he's just in the room and he's getting they're like throwing tomatoes at him pretty much. And I can't help but think that that case is the same for us as well. What I will say though, on the bullish side for that is, you can just think about how early we are, right? At the end of the day, he's being laughed at for saying that Bitcoin is a form of money. It's competing against fiat currencies. It's implied it's competing against gold and all sorts of monies globally. And for people to laugh at him for that idea just goes to show how few people out there actually understand what we're talking about today. And so that is actually the encouraging side of it all, is like, yeah, we're going to get laughed at today, but anyone who's early to a technology, anyone who's early to maybe an investment is going to be laughed at some point, because you need to be, if you're in the room with early adopters, you're just ahead of the curve. And so look, a few laughs here and there, just have some thick skin, and we're going much higher. There's going to be a day when we're laughing at the French central bank. I mean, I already am.
I'm already laughing.
Yeah, sure.
I have many thoughts on this. Shout out to Mr. Dinkles in the chat, who just said, I took it as a nervous laugh. I kind of agree. Like, I think I don't know his name, but the French central banker, he kind of laughs first, like he smiles and laughs, and then you hear the chorus of the audience laughing. So I think they were kind of like waiting to see how he'd respond to that, of Armstrong saying it's a healthy competition. So that's one point. The other point is, sort of you alluded to this, Jackson, but like Armstrong gets a lot of shit. He runs a crypto casino, but every now and again he comes with these sound bites where like he's speaking truth about Bitcoin, and he's doing it in a way that is nuanced, articulate, and particularly given the setting, like the environment that he's in Davos with a bunch of central bankers, which with a bunch of basically fiat maximalists. I think he played it perfectly because he sort of waits for the guy to go on about why he doesn't trust Bitcoin as much as the independent central banks, and you can see in Brian's face when he says private issuers of Bitcoin, he like perks up. He's ready to respond and just dunk on him, being like, "There's no issuer, man." And the line around, if let me grant you that central banks have some amount of independence, Bitcoin's even more independent. That's a fantastic line. And so I loved it. And frankly, it'd be a very different world if they weren't laughing at that, right? Like if they really knew they were in a real competition, Bitcoin versus fiat, they probably wouldn't be laughing. So you're right. It's one that we're super early. And I wouldn't expect anything else from a group of fiat maximalists in the crowd.
Yeah, I also have a lot of thoughts on this. I think Armstrong did really great here because I think we are laughing at these people, right? We just think, my thought here is that it's amazing that these people rule us. They have no fucking clue. They have no clue that Bitcoin is the greatest technological invention in their field of expertise, right? And they're just dismissing it like headline readers, like, "Oh yeah, well, it's funny," and whatnot. And I agree with Jackson. I think it's fun they are laughing at us because that means we're going to win. I think, uh, and maybe it's a nervous laugh, but still, then we're going to win because I think at this stage, this had millions of views, this clip, and there was a little longer one actually where he even talks a bit more, and it really shows the hubris of the people that are in leadership positions in the fiat money system, right? Like even the sentence like I trust in what the fuck did he say? Like central banks with democratic mandate, etc. You don't even know what that means. Like what does it mean, right? Like and these people have trust in some sort of frame of reference that is just words on a paper or words by other people, where we know that how Bitcoin works. It actually takes all the words and all the human trust me bro type vibes and I'm going to regulate you and whatever not, all these things, it takes it away, right? So whenever I see people like this talk, or Lagarde, they talk from a certain position that they hold and therefore they think their words have value, right? But you can still talk shit and be a dumbass even when you're at that stage. And I just really love that at a surface level, it's just so easy to poke holes in it, if that makes sense, right? There's no like real substance in any of these anti-Bitcoin type arguments, right? Because if you would actually debate this guy, head of a French central bank, on that what he said, it would be over in like 3 minutes, right? It was almost over based on what Armstrong said. So I just think that is really interesting that the flaws of fiat and this disdain and dismissal of something that is objectively superior to how all the fiat money structures are structured, basically, I think is actually immensely bullish.
Yeah, and Bram, one thing I'd add as well to your point is you guys may recall that I believe it was the ECB published that white paper or article in
It's over.
2022, Bitcoin's last stand, right? I mean, it's incredible. They called the bottom. They called
They
the
really
bottom in
did.
2022. And if anything, I think these reactions are, well, I think they do think we're laughing stock. Brian thinks that they're nervous. They're like the Ralph Wiggum Simpsons meme, "I'm in danger." You think that's what it is? I think they just think we're like morons, which is fine. But if anything, it's
I think it's a
central
mix.
banks.
I don't think it's black and white. I think there's certain people who
Yeah,
probably
that's
recognize there's something going on and there's some value, but
Well,
there's
they
some
have.
people.
it's but it
This
is
is
a
my
central
argument.
banks.
Sorry, like if they haven't studied it, that would give me a lot of fear. Then we're like truly ruled by retards, guys. Like if they are not paying attention like that, then whoa. Sorry, go ahead.
It's just the central bank's last stand. Is like, well, let's just go on record and say that. I mean, that's what gold is saying to the market as well. I know we'll
Well,
talk
yeah.
about gold, but
No, that's a really good point, and I don't know if we have other links from Davos, but I would say if we're zooming out and looking at like this year's Davos conference, it was pretty different in my eyes from past years. Like past years, they were talking about ESG, climate change, all that stuff. Klaus Schwab is out. I informed Jackson of this the other day. Larry Fink is now the head of the World
I couldn't
Economic
believe
Forum.
that, by the way.
So you've got Uncle Larry who likes Bitcoin. He's now leading the WEF. And it was just a different tone. Like you had Ken Griffin talking about the unsustainable debt. You had Armstrong doing his thing. You had I think Lutnick was on stage at some point, like saying globalization has failed.
That
there
segment was fire. By
so
the
there
way.
was
The
kind of a
Lutnick
shift.
clip.
There was a shift in terms of like what was being discussed, and it was almost like they were sort of broadly in aggregate admitting like fiat's kind of cooked. The debt's too much. Hopefully AI saves us. And then you had Armstrong being on there like, it's a healthy competition. Bitcoin's coming for you guys. And yeah, they're going to laugh at it for now, but we'll see.
Yeah, I just pulled up another clip that I shared of Lagarde, and yeah, I'm kind of hyped up, guys. I agree with what you say, Brian. It is funny that um, it didn't feel like an aligned orchestration of all these people gathering, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no unified message of being strong or whatever. And it's funny because like over the days you saw people, and this is what I want to show of Christine Lagarde. They were kind of like, shit, I need to change my tone, right? You even heard Bill Gates say like, oh, the funding is drying up for everything I find important and stuff like that. It was very interesting. But so I'm hyped up on one side, and on the other side, I just feel like these people are not sane. I don't know. Like why are all these random plebs, all these anonymous plebs that need digital IDs so they can share their ideas on the internet? Why are they figuring this out before the people that are actually in charge? I mean, the answer is that's that's the problem, right? But yeah, so I tweeted here like it's also empty and tiring, right? Like you hear, yeah. Well, I'll play a little bit of Lagarde here.
In the last few days. But if anything,
Yeah,
I
if
think
you
we have
heard the
heard
first
quite a
part.
lot of European bashing in the last few days. But if anything, it has been good. And we should say thank you to the bashers, because I think it has given us a complete realization of the fact that we have to be more focused. We have to work on those plans B that I was talking about, and we have to focus on innovation, improvement of productivity, and the rest of it. Point number one.
No shit. Like, what do the words even mean? This is the president of the European Central Bank. Like, what? Oh, yeah, I need to be focused. We need to innovate. We need to move forward. Like, I don't, what does it even mean? I don't understand that. There's not more scrutiny on this, right? Like, this is kind of what I feel. I'll stop talking. I'm rambling here, but I feel like it is just, yeah, it's tiring. There's not a lot of substance here, and it's just like, oh yeah, oh well, apparently people don't really like what we are doing, and yeah, no, look at what people are talking about online, but you dismiss that for years until you're at a stage where there's millions of views of clips that go absolutely bonkers viral, right? Like I mentioned the Lutnick clip. I thought it was straight fire, really good. And then you're like, oh, well, maybe I have to adjust my tone, right? Like, and that I think shows this whole fragility of this entire.
By the way,
system.
that's what the early stages of a true healthy competition would look like. Like we would expect that like over time, like they ignore, laugh a little bit, but then kind of realize like, okay, maybe we need to shift here a little bit and start thinking more critically about this.
Well, I mean, if you think someone's idea sucks, you should come up with a better idea, right? Instead of saying like fascist or this or you're bad or you suck or you like, whatever, something stupid. Okay, come up with a better idea. Like
Yeah.
eventually the whole world is a war or a battlefield of ideas and ideology. And if yours sucks, then come up with a better one or you're replaced. And that's, I think, how basic it is. But that's what I meant with these people in these places think that by the words they're using, because they are in those places, they can kind of skip that part, basically.
Right.
And yeah, I like it. And I like what Jackson said. I think also for me, it shows we're early. This is what the opportunity is that if these
Bram.
people are still laughing, you could stack.
Bram, say thank you to the bashers. That's all.
Yes. That's a good one.
When it comes to holding Bitcoin securely, peace of mind starts with architecture. OnRamp's multi-institution custody distributes control across 3 independent regulated key holders in a 2 of 3 quorum. No single point of failure, no pooled or omnibus exposure, segregated client-titled vaults. You retain full legal ownership while OnRamp coordinates security, compliance, and operational workflows behind the scenes. It's strength of many delivered through the simplicity of one. Multi-institution custody is the foundation for everything we build. Sound infrastructure that distributes counterparty risk and provides fault-tolerant resilience with clear audits and institutional controls. And now OnRamp is piloting flat, predictable pricing, making best-in-class Bitcoin custody and financial services more accessible now than ever. OnRamp, strength in many, simplicity in one. To learn more, check out onrampbitcoin.com.
All right. Next one. This is Brian.
Yeah, so this was a good retweet by Pierre. I'd actually originally seen the one that he quote tweeted here, where Forecaster, if you remember, was some like Web3 sort of like digital asset sort of social media platform. Basically, totally failed. Like a few months ago, last year, they pivoted to just being a wallet. And then I think they just got bought recently for some wild amount of money. But the point is, basically, and I've talked about this on the show before, but like, if you look at the totality of sort of the broader crypto space, ex Bitcoin, I think years in the past, historically, there's been a lot of rhetoric and narratives around, how innovative and transformative this stuff is. But as we sit here today, like, what are the true sort of like value add things that have come from the broader crypto space outside of Bitcoin? And it's like stable coins, which like I will readily admit that there's product market fit for digital dollars, at least in this interim period where fiat still exists and the dollar is still stronger than all other fiat currencies. There's appetite and demand for stable coins. And then, what we're seeing on the tokenization side, which, I think tokenization broadly is kind of dumb, but the banks love it. They can be more efficient with basically better, faster databases, because that's effectively what this is. And so the takeaway here, and Pierre puts it nicely, but if the crypto industry is only for back office automation of capital markets, it hasn't accomplished a lot, especially compared to Bitcoin. And then he notes that enterprise blockchain tokenization has less adoption than the LLMs, the chatbots. And so there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of headlines, partnerships around tokenization, real world assets, all this stuff. But to me, it's kind of if we reflect on the past several years, like it is sort of an indictment of like a lot of what the crypto people thought crypto was supposed to be, which was like super innovative. You have these tokens that'll be super valuable because all these things are going to be happening, all these forms of utility. And it's kind of just devolved into like stable coins and making the TradFi rails marginally more efficient. And so a nice subtle dunk here by Pierre, but I think it's just indicative of kind of where we're at, where Bitcoin has really separated itself as this non-sovereign monetary asset that's being contemplated at least by sovereigns and central banks, versus the rest of this crypto stuff, which Wall Street is actively adopting. But it's marginal improvements. It's not the real innovation of a new form of money.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
No, Jackson, go ahead.
what I was going to say was, so Brian, you said something about how it's just it's the rails for the US dollar, right? Stable coins.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like, so you're making the dollar great again, actually, crypto as an industry. But seriously, a few themes kind of come to mind. We talked about it over the course of 2025. The first is there's a lot of infighting now in the crypto space where you have Bitcoin clearly standing alone as its own asset technology. And then you have meme coins on the other side of the barbell, which just gambling, degenerate behavior. And then you have the infighting in the middle of the crypto space where it's like, my layer one's faster than yours. My layer one does this and that. And I don't even know, I don't pay attention. So I literally have no idea what the fights are about at this point, but I just know there's fights about layer ones and what to build on and what not to build on. And then the other piece as well is I remember after the big collapse of October, a bunch of people are like reflecting on their crypto journeys, right? And they're like, oh, after 7 or 8 years in this space, I feel like we've accomplished nothing. Well, yeah, I mean, you actually haven't accomplished anything. So um, it's a feeling I think of just trying to be in a space that's innovative, exciting, and offer value. I think a lot of people are trying to offer value, but I think there's a realization now, to your point, Brian, a lot of this is just going to be adopted and swallowed up by Wall Street and the US Treasury on the stablecoin side, and Wall Street too. And a lot of it's just gonna never materialize to anything. And so I think the case for Bitcoin only has never been stronger.
Agreed.
I mean,
At least from segregating what these things are, right? Like you can think that these other blockchains might make these back office operations, capital markets broadly more efficient. Now, I think there's still going to be a lot of problems with like the actual implementation and how that looks and how fragmented it is with all these different blockchains, all these different issuers. I think it's going to be kind of a huge mess, which really it hasn't really started in earnest in a real way. So it's hard to see how it's going to play out. But you're exactly right, Jackson.
I fully agree. I once talked to American Hodl, and he said, Bitcoiners are 8 years ahead of everyone else. This is also, by the way, what I feel in like TradFi. They are having like their crypto 2017 type era, 2017, 2018. And I agree. I always say like the only thing I really saw coming out of crypto, and not to flex because I sold too early, but I found Ethereum at like $7 or $17 or so, something like that. So very early, and I did all the NFT and ICO stuff and whatnot. Is like the poly market, like the prediction type stuff, which it's kind of like freedom of information and freedom of capital coming together, which it isn't even a new business model, by the way, right? It just made it faster and global, etc. So I think that's cool, and I see value in there. But whether that's on Polygon, Ethereum,
Or like
any of the other
Kalshi doesn't even use a blockchain, so it's like you don't even.
No, exactly. Like you don't even need it. I think with blockchain and stuff, it's more programmable, and so somewhat interesting, and definitely global, right? I think Polymarket's probably more global than Kalshi regulation wise and whatnot. So I think that is interesting, but I 100% agree. In the past almost 10 years, nothing out of crypto actually surprised me and was like, oh, that is different. And I was for some time on like the Web3 train, right? Like, oh, you should own your data. Like, why can't I move my reputation from eBay to LinkedIn or wherever, right? So I thought like, decentralized identities and all these things. But, eventually you see the light and you realize it's about the money. And it's Bitcoin only. It's funny because I think I have the one that you mentioned, Jackson. I have that tweet, so we'll talk about this. But yeah, I agree. This whole idea, what it says on the link, actually, the read, write, own, is actually the whole Web3 idea, right? I do think there's a signal in there for Bitcoin, because the problem is not enough people care. Not enough people care that some services are free. They are basically the product, right? Because everything that they put onto a platform is used to enhance the platform or monetize the platform or whatever. I just think not enough people care about that. So maybe that's also why Farcaster didn't get further. But then I also agree with what you guys said. This is just this was like R&D for Wall Street, right? And now they came up with this idea of tokenized assets, tokenized real world assets, and whatever. We know it's nonsense, right? Because who's going to put a house on the blockchain? That's why I said, they are in their 2017, 2018 era. They don't understand that the only big improvement is a permissionless blockchain, and there's only one use case for a permissionless blockchain, and that is money. So although you could have 24/7 stock markets, it's just another abstraction of how stocks work. You never really truly own your stock. And I honestly think that 24/7 stock markets are going to wreck the stock market, by the way. Because if, there's a group of rando anons on the internet who decide that company ABC fucking sucks. And at 3 a.m., in the middle of the night, they start dumping or fucking around or whatever. And the CEO wakes up at 6 a.m. New York time. I mean, how are you even predictably going to run your company if your stock is traded 24/7? Like, I don't really know what that looks like, but if the degenerate mentality from crypto moves to 24/7 stock market, it's going to be very, very interesting. And I wonder if there's any good ideas actually around that, because that's my main concern around there. But yeah, I think it's just interesting to see that something that a lot of Bitcoiners have said for years is actually now showing. And maybe my next, so I'll show you my link, because that's the one I brought for now. I think maybe this was the one you referred to, Jackson. I don't know. Well, this seems
I didn't
like,
actually see this, but let me read it.
yeah. So it says, at some point you have to accept that this market will never be the same again. Crypto lost its relevance, burned too many people, and destroyed its own credibility. The sooner you face that, the better positioned you'll be. People still arguing in the replies. My take on this is I actually even attempted a Web3 type startup back in the day, trying to use my experience in like market research for startups. I was thinking like, everyone is going to be building, and, we had Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. So everyone is going to be building and they need to do market research. And so I wanted to build a platform for that. And we failed after like 5 months or something. But then I realized no one is really building. It's all chasing the next thing, right? It's like VC on steroids. It was like that when there were ICOs. I funded like 10 neobanks that never saw the light of day, right? And it only gradually went down in terms of how you could start a project. So with ICOs, there was actually a white paper, a business plan, a startup pitch deck or whatnot that people looked at. And then we had NFTs, which basically became a white paper, which was one, a one-page document. And then I think Pump.fun killed crypto, basically because anyone could start a token, and it's just people chasing the next thing. There's no sustainable building that has been behind anything in crypto, I would say, right? It said like has lost its relevance. I don't think it ever was relevant. As we know, I think crypto sprung from the introduction of Bitcoin, where people who don't understand why Bitcoin is the way it is say like, oh, I should build a faster one, right? And then, for example, Solana is too fast, so it breaks. And, it's just all these technological approaches to make something better that is already superior. And when no one could make anything superior, they just started packaging it in different ways, basically. And, that's kind of my thought around
the
this.
the point you made around like VC on steroids, just to unpack that a little bit, like a lot of the reason that it was so, the crypto space broadly was so narrative driven, pump and dump type action for like the actual assets and coins is because the basically the fundamental structure of, if you're a founding team, you issue a token, you can have immediate liquidity on your quote unquote business or whatever the project is, right? And so if you compare that to like traditional business building, typically you don't have that sort of near term liquidity. And so that just incentivizes basically like bad behavior of like you
Exactly.
do a ton of like marketing, shilling, over promising, under delivering. And as long as you can cash out some tokens, like you don't really give a shit and you just move on to the next project. And that's kind of like what has characterized the crypto space for forever, basically. And so you're exactly right, but it comes back down to like actually the fundamental dynamics of like token raises, liquidity, and then just the misaligned incentives basically.
Yeah. So when I wanted to build this market research platform, I actually talked to, I think, over 150, between 150 and 200 like builders and investors and teams in like crypto. And at one point I was talking to a guy who had like 6 million funding from Polygon or something, and he was building a new social media platform, so like Twitter but with crypto or no, whatever. And I looked at it, and so my background is like startups and investing and stuff like that, right? So I have this you know, I can look at a product, give feedback, whatever. And I was talking to this guy and I said, well, you're making a social media platform. People can post stuff, like it, reshare it, whatever. But when they do, they're they are rewarded with your token. So how do you think through the fact that a social media platform only grows by the quality of posts that people create, and therefore they attract more people, right? And they share and they like because there's a certain content, and that is quality level of content or entertaining or whatever is interesting enough for people to join you, and that is how you grow, right? But when you give a monetary incentive from the start, yeah, you kind of make sure that you are never ever able to determine what the added value of your platform is, because the motivations and incentives of people are only driven by the monetary part. It's not about the value on the platform. Does that make sense? Like and then he said, well, yeah, fake answer, whatever. And then I looked at his business plan, white paper thing, whatever. And the investors that invested at one of his tokens was 0.000 something
Right.
something dollar. Okay, yeah. So your motivation is to grow the value of the token, right? And so it's just a whole mixed game of bad incentives that don't exist in classic startups, right? If we all put together 10K or whatever and we start building on a product, we are limited by the 10K, and that makes us um you know think about our decisions and be very reflective and whatever. And yeah, if there's just tokens and your whole idea is, I need to get the next sucker in or just pretend to be, XYZ or show XYZ growth, then yeah, nothing is ever really going to materialize. And it took a long time to see that, for others to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's well said.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nonsense.
That's a
Yeah,
good take.
that's it.
Okay, cool. Brian, this was yours.
Yeah, I thought this is interesting. So, Nick Carter tweeted this out. I don't really know what his motivation in tweeting this was, but he says if you had bought an equal weight portfolio of the coins on the cover of Chris Bernitzky's Crypto Assets book on the day of publication in 2017, you made 254% over that time frame, about 8 years. And he's saying, the performance was driven by those top three assets: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero. When I look at this, it's just like, well, it's really driven by Bitcoin. Bitcoin's basically almost a 20x here. Ethereum's a 10x. Monero's a little under a 10x. So you really would have just been better off buying Bitcoin and not diversifying across a crypto basket. And I will say, this was a good book. I read it back in the day when I was first starting to learn about crypto, and there is a lot of good content and commentary around Bitcoin specifically in that book. But that was, 2017 heyday of ICOs and all the altcoins. So, he mentioned a number of cryptocurrencies in that book. And so I thought it was an interesting sort of look back reflection on like basically the myths around diversification. And this applies to traditional assets as well. Like, concentrated bets are how you really compound wealth over the long term. You have conviction in something that you believe in, that the market misunderstands or misprice, and you size it accordingly. You have concentrated bets. You don't necessarily need to spread out your bets. And so I think that's been reaffirmed on sort of the TradFi side when you look at the 60/40 portfolio. This notion of being super diversified across equities, bonds, and those portfolios are getting cooked over the past 5 to 10 years by like rocks, right? Like by gold. And so like diversification is largely bullshit. I mean, there's time and place for it, right? Like if you are 80 years old and trying to just preserve wealth, not necessarily grow it. You might have a different asset allocation and portfolio construction than someone who's in their 20s or 30s and really trying to compound wealth over a longer sort of remaining life. But I just thought it was a very interesting look back on, just buy Bitcoin. Don't get distracted by the other things.
Brian, you ever see, and Bram, you guys ever see Breaking Bad?
Of course.
I was just thinking, Hank's like, they're not rocks, Marie, they're minerals. We were just talking about like gold and silver. But my take is,
Funny, I wanted to say it's metal, right? Like, or people say, we just,
yeah, they're not rocks, Marie. But yeah, I mean, look, Bitcoin is the market. People forget that Bitcoin is the market. It's 60% of the entire market cap. And without stable coins, it's even higher. I don't know why we're even talking about these other assets, because there is no other asset class that has that level of dominance. The only other one, so I'll contradict myself, the only other one would be precious metals. And gold is probably 70 to 80%. Roughly, there's gold, silver, and palladium. But look, most people don't own silver. Silver is owned by like silver stackers who want to end the Fed, which is a mission I'm on board for. But most people don't own silver in their portfolios. If someone does own gold or does own precious metals, they're going to own gold. And so take that same approach with this space, except definitely do that, because the rest of the space is nonsense and it's garbage. I mean, at least silver is an industrial metal, and it's also has some scarcity as well, and relative to other metals. And so it makes sense to some degree, but it doesn't make sense to own a bunch of garbage like Litecoin or whatever else was on the cover of that book. Stick to Bitcoin. It is the entire market. It's going to continue to be the entire market. And if you're an asset allocator, you should consider Bitcoin in the context of a broader portfolio. I mean, you could be concentrated like we are, or you could have a diversified portfolio. And if you do, you don't need to diversify your asset allocation to crypto assets. You can just buy Bitcoin and leave it at that, and you'll outperform, and you can be happy, and you can go on with your life.
Well said.
Talking about gold, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, look, so I can read this out real quick. So retail investors are piling into gold and silver funds at an accelerating pace. Individual investors posted a 95 million net inflow in the largest gold ETF, GLD, on Tuesday, the largest since October 2025. By comparison, the largest daily inflows in 2025 were in October and April at 150 million. Retail investors have net bought gold, GLD, for almost every single day in 2026. As a result, retail net inflows are up to 370 million year to date. Meanwhile, silver-linked ETF saw a record 922 million of retail inflows over the last 30 days. The retail rush into precious metals is accelerating. Look, the reason why I included this in here is because people chase performance. It's that simple. And it's not a retail thing either. Institutional investors chase performance, even though they may not want to admit it. High net worths, family offices, they all chase performance. And so precious metals is the hot thing right now. And I can understand why. It's hard not to look at gold print $20 trillion to its market cap in 18 months and be like, well, shit, what am I doing here? I've just got this little orange coin that's just chopping around 90K. Like, what am I doing? Right. And so this isn't necessarily an indication. I have another chart we'll get to later, but this is not necessarily an indication that things are about to top off or overheat. I don't really know. I think over the long term, these will go structurally much higher because the currency, the fiat currency, is a total disaster. But yeah, I mean, we're starting to see the retail flows. People forget that gold actually has a sovereign bid. Nations, central banks are accumulating gold and have been en masse for the past 4 years now. And that is why the prices move so much. And look, we're only starting to see some interest in gold and silver, like just now. And so I think we have plenty of room to grow. This is not that dissimilar to 2024 when the the Bitcoin ETFs launch, right? There's going to be a lot of interest when they get access. And in this case, there's going to be a lot of interest when the price moves so quickly.
Yeah, it's a good point on chasing performance. I know, both Jackson and I in a prior life worked in the TradFi world, and I saw the same thing. Like, we would uh, basically manage portfolios on behalf of private clients, and without fail, like if in a given year one of the funds on our platform like wildly outperformed the S&P index, the following year when people were like rebalancing portfolios or whatever, people would just pile into whatever performed the best the past year. And typically that works out terribly, because then there's some reversion to the mean of some kind. Also on sort of the investment fund side, sometimes when funds get too large, it's harder to implement whatever strategy worked for them in the past. And so it is this sort of behavioral psychology just fact that people chase performance, and it's typically the wrong move. But I would agree with you, Jackson, that I think this has a ton more legs, because this is not a trade as the mainstream pundits have coined it, a debasement trade. Like, this is a reordering. Like, sovereigns, central banks are questioning what is money, how they store value into the future. No one wants to own each other's debt. Ray Dalio in Davos, back to Davos for a second, was saying something similar. He has a ton of gold. Um, I think he has some Bitcoin, but not nearly as much as his gold position. But he was basically saying, like, yeah, like, no one wants to hold each other's debt anymore. Like, we're moving beyond that. And the other thing that he said to highlight was, despite this move in gold, the vast majority of, whether it's individuals, institutions, or sovereigns, are still wildly like underweight where they ultimately want to get to in terms of like their gold ownership. And so this could continue kind of indefinitely in my mind. And at some point, Bitcoin does catch up and catch a bid, because it's, improves on the properties, all the things we know. But it is, particularly given like where this current bid is coming from, largely from sovereigns and central banks, it's logical that they would go to gold first and not Bitcoin. It's much larger, more familiar, more liquid asset. So patience. We just need some patience. That's all.
I mean, again, I think this is where the asymmetric opportunity comes from, right? If you are a serious capital allocator at whatever level, um, and you're dismissing Bitcoin, I mean, that's where the have fun staying poor meme comes from. I mean, this is, like I said, this is the greatest technological discovery / innovation, invention, however you want to define it, in finance, in this field, right? So if you are a serious professional, as there are a lot of serious professionals that do understand Bitcoin, yeah, these people will get to it too, but a lot of them aren't yet. And so this is really what helped me in this journey, is that, if you see people like, name a few, Stan Druckenmiller or Salinas or Bill Miller, or, name a few other billionaires that are deep into Bitcoin. They are serious capital allocators, and they are even more forced to do their homework, because it's their own money, it's their family office, right? So and they have clients, they have this duty to figure out what is the best way to allocate the capital. So I fully agree. This takes time. You need to have patience. And that is also, I think, why Bitcoin is so freeing and so entertaining at the same time. It's just a logical, rational solution to a problem that's becoming more clear every day. And luckily, in some weird way, we already see it, right? So I think that's why it's so entertaining for me. Yeah, Jax. Oh yeah, this was your link. Okay, I'll go to mine. It's actually funny that without really discussing beforehand, we kind of found this theme, right, where Bitcoin just shines through. And I really like this Balaji post. He says, "Winners write history. So if you do not write the history, you will not win. Fortunately, the Bitcoin blockchain is the most unfalsifiable form of history ever invented, a crypto history." And I absolutely love this. I shared this. I said in April here, the Bitcoin time chain is the highest form of ordered information humans have ever created. I mean, once you go down this part of the Bitcoin rabbit hole, like understanding where I have another one here. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I don't want to shill myself. Here. The longer Bitcoin exists, the lower the entropy of the time chain, the ledger, the higher its density of information, so more order, the higher its trustworthiness, predictability, and stability, the higher the incentive to contribute to it, which ensures it exists longer. And we repeat, right? And this is in way simpler terms, it is the longest chain is the best chain, right? The longer you store information in a predictable way and other people can use it. And actually the most mind-blowing thing that I recently realized is that when we all now audit the blockchain, like now we put in the, I don't remember the code, but like in our node, we see the exact same thing in different time zones, different locations, right? We can verify one thing to an exact determination individually at any time, which is mind-blowing. There's nothing else that you can do that with on a global instant scale. And I think there will be more and more people who will see this part of Bitcoin and realize that it is also something special. But I think this part is really what is the paradigm shift also. Like I said, there's nothing else where you can do this basically. So
Yeah.
just wanted to highlight it to also show why Bitcoin is so special. And I really liked Blanche's tweet here.
Yeah, it's a great tweet. I think you hit some great points there. Where my mind kind of went with it is like, to grasp a lot of what you just described, you got to be pretty far down the rabbit hole. Like most people, when they think of Bitcoin, they just think like magic internet beans, like, a random token that people have ascribed value to. They don't think about it as a network. They definitely don't think about it as like an information network where like information can be stored. Vast majority of humans on Earth don't even realize that that's possible with Bitcoin. And then also where my mind goes is, I think we talked about this maybe a few weeks ago, but like into this AI driven slop world that we are encroaching on, where it becomes more and more difficult to ascertain what is either real or truthful. Having this Bitcoin ledger that to your point, Bram, like we can all verify ourselves is truthful and real. That becomes a critical anchor point in sort of the digital realm when the slop is going to accelerate and intensify. I don't I don't even think most Bitcoiners fully grasp what that is going to mean and look like in a few short years. But just something to contemplate. But broader point is like most people aren't on that level of thinking about Bitcoin in that way. It's more just like random token internet money, unfortunately.
Hey, they'll find out one day, Brian. I like what you guys said.
That's why we got to keep doing the show, Jackson.
I like what you guys said. Yeah, I mean, there's not too much for me to add, but I like, Bron, that you pulled in that tweet, because it goes to show that there's other very valuable use cases for Bitcoin just beyond the number going up and storing value. I mean, it's pretty incredible, as you guys both described. So, not too much for me to add there.
All right, and you can go back to talking about gold.
Gold. I'm like Gold Member. That's another good movie. Austin Powers. That's what I call Michael sometimes, Gold Member, because he was built up on gold a while back on the last trade, and maybe we should have listened to him. Maybe we should have bought some of those rocks. But yeah, this tweet says gold now accounts for 25% of total world reserves, still below the USD as a percentage share, and it remains far below its share in the 70s and 80s. In other words, if the recent reasons for buying gold persist, it can keep rising. The number can keep going up, as they would say. And so if you look at this chart, for people who cannot see it on audio, to go back to like the late 70s, we peak out, gold as a percentage of world reserves is almost 80%. And then we've just been going to zero, it appears, until the mid 2010s, really. And so gold went from 80% of the world reserves to, call it about, I think it's like 12 or 13% was the bottom, maybe a little bit lower than that. And just for context, the dollar in the late 70s, early 80s bottomed out at about 15%, peaked out at about 60% in the early 2000s. And now the dollar sits around 45% and gold sits around 25%. So the point of this tweet is, yeah, the number is going to go higher. There's no reason it wouldn't. We're not going to go back to a world that existed before. These countries aren't going to all of a sudden just sing kumbaya. They're not all going to trust each other. This is a secular trend. Trust is declining, and this is not unique to the financial system. Trust is declining in many facets of the world, in many countries for a number of reasons. And so trust is going lower, debasement's going higher of fiat currencies, and number go up for gold, number go down for dollar, and for Christine Lagarde and all the central bankers.
Yeah, Bitcoin has no top because trust has no bottom, effectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is an amazing chart. I mean, we're all I wanted to add to it was like when people talk about potential diminishing returns for Bitcoin going forward, like we just empirically know that that's not true at this point because gold over 18 to 24 months added over $20 trillion to its market cap, and people are concerned that Bitcoin can't make larger moves at this point because it's in some realm like too large and too hard to move around. It's just not the case. And so that's just something to be cognizant of whenever you hear somebody say like, oh, all the Bitcoin's returns are behind it. You get that from some of the TradFi fiat maximalist people who are like, yeah, it would have been great to buy Bitcoin 10 years ago, but like now it's not that interesting. Happy for those people, but so-and-so. It's just not the case. Like Bitcoin can and will rip your face off. And it's probably coming. Well, I won't say relatively soon, but
Do
feels like it.
not come. No, but I want to say one other thing real quick. Yeah, I mean, I for a while thought diminishing returns could be a possibility. I thought it was more of a possibility than it wasn't, but gold proved me wrong. I mean, gold has added 20 trillion to its market cap in a little over a year. That is insane. And even silver, remember we all used to laugh at the silver sackers. Oh, look at Bitcoin. The market cap has surpassed silver. Why would anyone want to own silver? Well, silver's like what, a $5 trillion asset? I
It's
haven't
over
looked
5
recently.
now, yeah.
Over 5. Bitcoin still struggling below 2. And so diminishing returns is bullshit. The orange coin can go much higher. The yellow rock is going higher currently. And it's an exciting time to be alive. I mean, I genuinely think that actually I know that most people, forget Bitcoin for a second, most people still don't even like consider precious metals, right? Like, oh, that's a lunatic thing. Why would you need gold? You're a moron. It's a rock. It doesn't have cash flows. So we're very, very early just in the context of sound money and store of value and trust going down and all those themes that Brian and I just spoke to.
Here's the conversation no one wants to have. If something happened to you tomorrow, could your family access your Bitcoin? Really think about it. The seed phrase hidden in your house, the hardware wallet in the safe, that complex multi-sig setup. You understand it, but does your spouse? Do your children? Billions in Bitcoin are already lost forever because people did not plan for this moment. OnRamp's inheritance solution is built into our multi-institution custody from day one. 3 institutions, clear beneficiary designation, and professional succession planning. No technical knowledge required from your heirs. And with our new flat tier pricing starting at $250 monthly, your family won't face surprise custody costs just because Bitcoin appreciated. The same predictable fee whether Bitcoin hits 200K or 2 million. Don't leave your family's future to chance. There's strength in many. Visit onrampbitcoin.com/inheritance. That is onrampbitcoin.com/inheritance.
I mean, I fully agree. I think people are very impatient. I think also even in Bitcoin, because you think maybe because you doubt yourself. I mean, I know I do, right? Like I'm mind blown every week that I'm like, did I really figure this out? Like really? I'm probably wrong, like that. So I think that a lot of people feel like it all should go faster because they expect other people to see this too. But I think not understanding this is deeply, deeply ingrained. And that's why I really like that Brian said earlier, like you need to have patience. This is an extremely long timeline, I think. I mean, central banks are buying gold, which is objectively inferior in characteristics to Bitcoin, if you really study it, right? So why are they doing that? Are these people dumb? No, right? So it's a game. It's all game theory. If they don't buy gold, someone else will, right? Like, and I think later also, if Trump buys gold, and the whole world is like anti-Trump, whatever, they're all going to say like, oh, they're fucking idiots and this and that and blah, blah. And then the UAE is going to be, oh shit, I need to buy more Bitcoin too. And Qatar is going to be like, oh, I'm going to tell them. And then in Europe, they're going to be like, oh, my brain is fried because I don't like Trump and I need to buy Bitcoin. Like, that's going to be so entertaining, guys. Like, it's going to be so fun to watch. But I think it's going to take some time. Like, all the anti-gold stuff is so basic, dude. Like they say like, oh, gold is used in electronics and cavities and jewelry. But then it's not good money. Bitcoin is one thing, right? It's money. So I think over time, more and more people will figure this out. But for now, they won't. And there's a whole nother game being played at a whole nother level that we're not even involved in, right? I mean, even today, and I think it's also attached to what you just mentioned, right? Like China sold, I don't want to butcher the number, but a lot of U.S. treasuries, right? And they're buying gold, and that's the story. That's the thing that people are focusing on. Bitcoin, to go back to the first part, it's a fringe thing. No one cares, and that is your opportunity. So if you see this bigger picture and you understand that these people are basically playing, 50% of the right game, but they're not understanding that Bitcoin is a superior asset for the same use case, then that is your opportunity. And that is just really cool.
China. Yeah, look, but look there. But Bram, real quick, yeah, I think what's happening too is the gold repricing is just signaling decline in U.S. as we talked about. I think it's in the best interest. The United States needs to lead in Bitcoin. It is just a clear opportunity. All of their adversaries are stacking gold like madmen. We know from people who are very involved in the precious metal space that China notoriously underreports their gold holdings and accumulation each year. And the opposite is speculated about the United States, that Fort Knox is overreported. So I think it's in the best interest. United States, Donnie, if you want to defeat China, you need to buy the orange coin. There's only one way to do it.
I mean, we already have a fuck ton. We just took 600,000 Bitcoin from Venezuela, so we've got a good stack.
No, I don't know. I'm gonna stop you,
Brian.
there.
You're the one who's all about the audits. Where's the audit for that?
Yeah,
I would appreciate an audit. I
don't like those headlines. I think
that
is beneath you,
headline.
Brian. That's beneath your intellect.
Mostly kidding, guys. Everyone relax. Okay. The only other thing I'll say on the gold stuff is like I do see on Twitter, Bitcoin Twitter, like whenever gold starts running, like people get upset and like angry and like defensive. It's like, no, like you're right. Like this is proving you right. Like, yes, your asset is not going up. The one that's better is not going up right now today. But gold ripping everyone's face off means we're right. Like it is validating the Bitcoin thesis. The money's broken. We need to go back to sound money.
Go take it from here.
Perfect transition to this great tweet by Zinx. It's quite simple why Bitcoin is underperforming gold right now. First, you must understand that central banks are increasingly stacking gold as an insurance policy in a volatile world. It's simply too early for Bitcoin to receive the same institutional bid. I will caveat that it can happen on the margins, but what we're really talking about here is central banks. And so, yes, it's going to go to gold first. Gold has served as foundational monetary asset for 5,000 years. Bitcoin's only 17 years old. Most of these decision makers are over 60 years old. They don't understand Bitcoin. This is fine. That's the opportunity. It's well said and paired perfectly what I was ranting about is just like, we should be fucking pumped that these metals are running. We are right. We are so right. And the money is very broken. And people are waking up to that. Now, do they know the answer is Bitcoin? Not quite yet. But they'll get there because we know the properties. We know the properties of this thing. People will eventually realize it. But we're right, boys. Like, metal's running. We should all be fucking ecstatic. But then I see Bitcoiners on Twitter being like, trying to shit on gold. And Bram, I will say, sometimes you do this. Sometimes you do this. You like to shit on gold. But it's like,
I think it's just dumb.
we're on the same, but we're on the same
right.
team. It's sound money. I get that gold is worse than Bitcoin in terms of its properties. I get that. But we're right. The thesis is right.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think also to a degree, I'm trolling. I'm just,
Of course.
well, I have my last links in a bit, but yeah, maybe I'm just too insecure or something in some way. I'm just like, dude, how can I have figured this out? Is literally what I almost think every day. And that is also, I don't mind that it's slow. Like, I really like the grind. I think it's fun. I think it is like the whole hodling journey is a very interesting experience, right? And you have to answer this question every day, right? Like, can I still trust myself? Can I still trust my judgment, my discernment, my reflection, my research, everything, right? And I just love what you said, because Bitcoin is just rational. It's a rational, logical conclusion to a problem that is becoming more and more clear to more and more people every day. And so the fact that you're early is a blessing in disguise in that sense, right? Because you need to, you just need to keep going and not be thrown off by these idiot central bankers at the World Economic Forum or whoever with whatever credentials or hierarchical status or position or whatever, because there are no informed critiques, right? I mean, I don't know if you've heard them, but I still really haven't. It's just all very superficial, very basic, and that's good. But I think this is a long and exciting and boring and terrifying adventure at the same time.
Well, I took a huge loan out last year because all my favorite influencers told me that Bitcoin was going to $1 million in 2025, and now I'm ruined.
That's funny. I don't know if you want to say anything about this tweet. This was the other one that you had for the same.
Oh, did I bring this one as well?
Yeah.
It was a similar vein. This was Nick Bhatia. With gold practically five grand and silver at 100, the sentiment in Bitcoin is so poor due to being left out of the metals rally. It feels like post FTX bear vibes. I am bullish, but the painful type where fear dominates and you have to push through it. It's exactly right. Like, I see a lot of whining on the internet about this gold move. It's like, guys, this is good. This helps explain Bitcoin to other people. Like, gold ripping is a very easy foray to describe to someone why the money's broken and why you might want to think about digital gold. Like, it works perfectly into our hand in terms of educating the masses on why Bitcoin is better than gold. To your point, Bram. But like, it's actually a tailwind for us as Bitcoiners trying to educate the masses. It becomes easier for us. Like, if gold was fucking tanking in this environment, like, where's the narrative for digital gold? Fucking nowhere. So like, this is good.
I agree, Brian.
I don't know who
definitely
the who's the quote from, right? Like, every innovation or whatever thing, progresses with each funeral and whatnot. I mean, that's just true, right? That is just what it is. And some people still dismiss Bitcoin, mega blessing. That's okay. People dismiss, fucking the printing press and mobile phones and the internet and answering machines and MP3 players and TV and radio and cars and everything in between. Even a light bulb, right, could explode. You can die, blah, blah, blah.
And that was true, by the way. Like, technologies do have negative externalities, but you have to think from first principles about, well, do the positive externalities outweigh the negative? And for Bitcoin, that's absolutely true. I think for a while, there was the pushback around the ESG stuff, but we've gotten to the other side of that, and people realize like Bitcoin's actually fantastic for the environment, being more efficient with our energy usage as a species, all of those things. But like the light bulb example is funny because like, yeah, it did kill people because people didn't know how to like properly harness electricity safely.
True,
and it's still killing people. Let's go on record and say the light bulb is still killing people.
just like blue light LED.
Exactly.
Facts.
Get yourself some incandescent bulbs.
I like what you just said, Brian, because it goes back to this thing that I said about, the world is a better place of ideas. And so if you have an idea for a better light bulb, but it gives you eye cancer, then yeah,
Right.
it's not really a good idea, right? For a better light bulb, or, whatever people create. And that's the whole point. I mean, that's a good thing, I think, to emphasize, is that why does it take so long for people to figure out the money? Because you've been lied to your whole life and no one ever explained it to you, right? Like if you have, dial-up modem and Wi-Fi modem, or like, classic phone, mobile phone, or, 10 monks writing a book versus a printing press. It is very clear what the technological advancement is. Does that make sense? Right? Like, okay, I had 10 monks writing.
It takes time though, right? Like I think that's the point is like,
Of course, but I mean more like the money thing, right? So, okay, do you want 10 monks writing one book every 10 weeks, or do you want 10 new books every 2 days? So we can spread our information. Oh yeah, that I want the latter, right? Like that makes sense. Do you want to be able to only, call in your home or everywhere? The use case is very clear because people have been doing stuff before, but with money, right? They've been using money, and I think 99.9% of people don't understand what money is. We didn't know before also, right? So you're just doing it. When you're like 5 or 6, you get coins and a bill and you go to a store and you give it and you get a bread or whatever. And you're like, okay, that's money. And that's basically how you were taught money. And so I think it is not so obvious that something is wrong, or you should be on the lookout for something better and figure out if you can actually make a switch to a better money, as millions, maybe even billions of people did before us in times way, way before us, right? Like, so I think just switching money as a technology is just way, 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 way more difficult than going from, classic analog phone to a mobile phone, or whatever.
I think
whatever
you're totally right. It's a fantastic point. And to distill it, I would say the reason that is because people don't think of money as technology. And so they don't even think about upgrading it to a better money because they're not thinking of it as a technology. And that was actually on my own sort of Bitcoin journey. That was a core unlock for me, like reading the Bitcoin Standard and Safe just describing money as technology. Like that made me think about the world in a totally different light. To your point, like I'd, grown up in a dollar system. It was very ingrained, and I had never thought of it as a technology that could evolve, that could be better or worse. And so I think that's part of the rub is that, most people just don't think of it as a technology.
What happened to Bram?
Bram Rugg.
Our fearless leader. What do we do?
There he is. He's back.
Bram, I was scared.
I did a rookie mistake. I don't know what I did. All right, let's wrap this up.
Dude, go to bed,
I'm a
Bram.
super noob. What's going
Dude,
on?
you have to go to bed.
Guys, it's 10:15 in the evening, and I have a baby at home, man. Like, whatever.
I've been getting into bed at like 8:30. It's been great.
Yeah, that's fire. All right, last one. I just wanted to share, and Brian is gonna laugh, and Jackson doesn't really know, but I just keep on being bewildered by people that have mega brains and still don't understand Bitcoin. So when you see this tweet, right? Bitcoin for little wishes is a good use of Bitcoin. I don't know if you've seen previous tweets of Burry, or he was in a podcast lately where he was like, tulips or Ponzi or whatever, just dumb. So I just asked him, how about Bitcoin as protection against a predatory fiat money system that steals your time and energy through infinite debasement? Is that good enough?
Did he reply?
No, of course not. But
Bad use case.
and this is the fun part. then I see this.
The point at which, well, I think the point at which the degree to which we can tax our population is our basically is eclipsed by the amount of our interest on our debt. Basically, makes us a Ponzi scheme of some sort, and I think that's the point. I think it's very hard to pick that spot. There's a long, long history. This is one of those things I think our leaders, our government are kind of in this teenage state right now. There's this long history we can rely on for a more mature view of how things work. And I think there's a long history of governments lasting a whole lot longer than they should. And, a lot that we'd rather not have happen. Certainly all the dictators seem to get it done. So I think it's difficult to time that very precisely. I think we'll have a warning though. I think a smart analyst, or I shouldn't say that because I don't even think I'm so smart. I was definitely 50th percentile here at Vanderbilt, no higher. I think if you just pay attention, you'll get a warning sign. Heck, when I figured out the subprime thing, I had to do it off human behavior and various sources of witchcraft wizardry in the 05. By early 06, it was apparent in the actual filings that were being made every month. And you just had to look at that. And it was really easy. And so I think you'll see that. If you're thinking, oh, one day a treasury auction will fail, and then I'll have, I don't see that happening because I think we have enough domestic consumers of debt, including the Fed, but including military pensions, whatever, Social Security, et cetera, that it's too easy for the government to hide that.
I mean, the Fed's the infinite consumer. They can just. You're on mute.
My guy. But
Yeah,
do you understand my bewilderment? What, like,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he
'cause-
clearly understands it, but he's also he's a gold bug at this point, right? I mean, so he gets it, but he just, for a lot of the themes we talked about in the show, he doesn't like Bitcoin, right?
but he
he
is
likes
such a
gold
deep
as
thinker and such a proponent of like getting in the weeds and doing the work, right? Like that was,
that's my point.
I actually rewatched The Big Short a few nights ago. Fantastic movie. But like that was his whole calling card, is like doing the work that other people weren't doing. And so you would think that he would have at this
And
point done a little bit more work.
being an extreme contrarian.
Right,
Extreme
that too.
contrarian within the context that he was operating in, and everyone was looking away because everyone was profiting from what he was shorting. So, I mean, again, I'm just bewildered. I think a Michael Burry Bitcoin turnaround would be fucking epic. Would be
Agreed.
that will be
maybe he should
so
do it.
fire because he will go, Antonopoulos autistic for a week, and then he's going to be like,
Only a week,
what the
Bram? Come on.
frick? Well, maybe in 2 hours he will get it if he does the work. But we should tweet this. I think he would be able to actually do it. I
mean,
think
maybe he should do it. He might be
Is that the 2026 Bitcoin catalyst? Is Burry flips on?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
He could do it
I'm
just
gonna
in
tweet
spite
it
of his
now.
hate for the U.S. government and their Ponzi
Right.
scheme.
I will say in my rewatch of The Big Short, it is the parallels are striking to building in the Bitcoin space, doing the things that the three of us do. There's that one scene. It's like I forget I think his name is Jamie something, where he's like, guys, like we just know something before everyone else, and it's like that. That's literally what Bitcoin is today. We are early. We are right. We're getting some early signals that we're right, with metals ripping recently. But yeah, it's just it's a matter of when, not if, that more people come to this recognition.
Yeah, I just tweeted my 2026 prediction. Michael Burry will figure out Bitcoin at some point and go fully autistic for 7 days to be born again. He's a Bitcoin maxi.
Love it.
Well, let's see, guys. This was super fun. Jackson, don't let Michael hear it, but I think you were a great stand-in, and you should be on more. So thanks, and I hope everyone enjoyed watching. And I hope we made some sense and gave you some value. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bram.
Awesome. Thanks,
It was
boys.
fun.
Later.
Cheers.